Hello and welcome to the Capital Conversation with me, Michael Hayman. Now, my guest today is the entrepreneur Adam Hildreth. With a 20-year career under his belt, you'd be forgiven for thinking he's a seasoned veteran of business. But at just 35 years old, he's in fact one of the country's leading young stars. In 1999, he founded his first business, Jubit, at just 14 years old, and it quickly became the most visited teen website in the UK. But success hasn't stopped there. He's done it again with Crisp, a young business protecting young people from online harm. And to tell us more, please welcome to the show, Adam Hildreth. Adam, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Right, you did a lot of this young. I mean, not many under 35-year-olds that can say they've had 20 years in business. Give us a sense of the young Adam.
Well, I guess I never even realised I was going into business. So it all started at a school project, 14 and 15, 7 of us. And school was never my thing. So I was looking for every opportunity. Generally it was sport. And someone came along and said, hey, there's a thing called Young Enterprise, which was a charity which allowed you to set up, and I questioned them at the time, a real business. So you could go out and raise money. Now, we're not talking lots of money, £50, £100 from as many places you could get that from with pounds, £5 and tens.
And what was your business? And
well, this is the interesting thing. Normally, it's a craft business. You create calendars. But we decided, because it was .com, and you had all the new websites that we know about today, the Amazons, if anyone remembers Jungle, the Boo.coms, we wanted to create the first way for teenagers to buy online. So it was a fairly ambitious project, which meant that we had to set up a bank. So that's how it all started.
So you were a young banker, soon became a multi-millionaire banker, according to the reports.
Well, we had to go and pitch to the banks and told them the idea, and you can imagine a bunch of 15 and 16-year-olds walking into a bank telling them that you want to run their bank. So
the social media before social media.
And so that led us to create one of the first social media sites. I wish I'd called it a social media site, because Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg and everyone else came along. But yeah, we had essentially the first social media site for teenagers.
Right. I mean, well, okay, so in terms of what that was doing, I mean, before we sort of move on to the opportunities you sort of saw, I guess, in terms of evolving the business platform. I mean, what was the core service? What was it actually doing?
So we were the first people to introduce, I guess, what you now call user-generated content or social media content. So rather than just reading web pages that people were producing, teenagers and young people uploaded their own content. So it's the way that people consume media today. We created one of the first versions of it.
I mean, I suppose you could have stayed with that, but you were already assessing and addressing risks. You worked with government when you were just 16 to address the issue of online risk. I mean, was that something you saw straight from the start with the business?
Yeah, so one of the challenges we had was we'd created a product for good, but people used them for bad. So we suddenly saw adults posing as kids coming onto the site, and actually back in 2000, 2001, that wasn't illegal. So now what we refer to as online grooming, the laws didn't exist. So we worked with the Home Secretary to come up with the laws, but we ended up employing more people trying to police the site and keep our advertisers and brands safe than anything else.
I mean, when did you start to understand the potential scale of the challenge that was facing, I guess, the online world and online businesses in terms of just how unsafe it was potentially becoming?
Well, I'd love to say that it was, we set up Crisp in 2005, which is when I left Dubbit to set this up as my own business, my own thing. And I'd love to say from day one we knew how big this was going to be. But you have a belief, you have a vision. And really, it's only in the last few years where it makes sort of mainstream media, where everyone understands it.
But presumably, leaving Dubbit was a big deal for you at the time, because I mean, first of all, it was a complete departure in the sense of, moving on to the issue of online safety, but also you had a business to leave behind you.
Yeah, and also with no training. So I remember being the age of 16, 17 when you've actually got what I call real people, because at 16 or 17 you're living with your parents, but you've got people's mortgages to pay.
Yeah.
So but no one teaches you that. I didn't go through a degree, I didn't do an MBA, so there's a lot of lessons learned, and when you leave, you realise that it's not that easy to go and set up something.
So Business One was a funded school project. Business Two was a very different, I guess, bet on the future. I mean, how did you fund Crisp from the start?
The initial rounds we did with what you referred to as angel, friends and family, and biggest part of that is networking. going out and speaking to everyone. And the great thing about when you're protecting kids, when you're protecting society, when you're dealing in the issues we're dealing in, lots of people want to get involved because it's a commercial cause, but it's a good cause.
But in terms of actually the preparation for that, I mean, when you're asking for actually, reasonably significant sums in terms of actually funding that future, I mean, a lot of people are doing this when they're in their 20s and 30s. You were doing this much younger than that in terms of going out there and creating a business with the ability to survive and go forward. What was the secret?
Well, I don't think there is a secret, and I don't think if you speak to anyone in business that there's that magic formula. Everyone learns lessons, but we're all creating something new all the time. So a lot of the time it's a finger in the air. This is what we think we can do.
So gut instinct.
Yeah, if you're entering a new market, creating new services or new products that don't exist, there isn't anything to follow. You can go on what you've learned in the past, what other people have taught you, but ultimately it's a belief from you, and then it's investors or employees or anyone else or partners that are then believing in you, believing in your idea.
Right, bring us up to date. Give us a sense of the size of the business, the sorts of people it's working with, the amount of people you're employing.
So in the last few years, we've really entered this mission in what we talk about, the weaponization of social media, which is fake news, misinformation, people abusing celebrities, people abusing brands online. So CRISP is there to put a stop to that. And that means that...
Some people say you've got quite a challenge.
We do, but we've been doing it for a long time and we're pretty good at it. Some people refer to us as a world leader. We work for some of the biggest brands in the world and stopping social media being used against them to destroy their reputation.
So trolls, that sort of...
Trolls, misinformation. People are now spreading fake news about brands. You've got fake reviews. You've got a whole variety of issues that mainstream corporations are facing.
Is your service about spotting the fakes, or is it about combating the threat?
So we do two things. One is more of a compliance side, which is helping companies and the social platforms. So the other side I should mention is we work for the social platforms as well. So the big social networks out there, we help them from a compliance perspective. No one needs terrorism, child grooming, real serious hate speech, so we get rid of that, we stop it. The other side is looking at all the signals that we can get from online and social media to work out when the next risk and threat's going to happen to a platform or a brand, and giving them an early warning signal, because issues can spread so quickly on all types of social media and communications, it's unreal.
I mean, a lot of people feel that some of those major businesses, Facebook and others, is that they were late to the party on this. They didn't realise just how many sort of dangerous threats were hidden within their platforms. I mean, do you think they get it?
I think it's a very difficult issue to come across. Bear in mind, we've been doing this since 2005, but it changes every day. Every day that we work out a new way in which terrorists are uploading propaganda, or people are bullying other people, or bullying celebrities, or sending threats to executives, or fake news, as soon as we stop it, the next day they've got another tactic.
But I wonder, was it always kind of like hardwired in? You had people like Mark Zuckerberg talked very famously about, go fast and break things. I mean, did that infer a kind of recklessness on their part in terms of not making their technologies safe enough, do you think?
I think it's all down to priority. There is absolutely zero point making something safe if no one uses it. So your number one priority is building a user base and making a usable product that everyone needs. Then once you've got your users, you then need to make it safe. Now, ideally, you do both at once, but anyone that's grown a business knows that you can't do everything at the same time. And I just think it's an overwhelming issue to deal with. When it changes every day, a lot of the challenges that big platforms face is they have a problem, and they come up with a solution, it's tested and rolled out. Unfortunately, the problem changes every day. So by the time you've worked out how to fix it, it's already days, if not weeks down.
And is there a checklist when people might be watching this show thinking about, well, how do I keep myself safe? How do I keep my family safe? How do I keep my business safe? I mean, in terms of the sort of things you can do to actually sort of prepare for the world you're talking about, I mean, what are the steps to take?
So if you'd had asked me this a year ago, I'd say that the number one thing, and this still remains true, is anything you upload online as made public is public forever. You can never remove it. Once it's online and you've posted it, that's it. So always think twice about what you're posting. But secondly, and what we're seeing today is people can post whatever they want. We talk about this when we talk about governments and politicians and fake news. There's a real scary issue now that anyone can spread a rumour. about anyone, and how do you prove that it's not true? And actually, if someone's disproving something, how do you prove that that isn't fake news?
And actually, the burden is upon you to prove it is untrue.
Exactly. So then it's all about knowing and being aware of what's happening, because then you potentially can do something about it. The real scary thing is when people are spreading misinformation. Let's say about a global brand that we all use every day, that there's been a product contamination. The scary thing is that it's not true when we stop buying that brand and someone's done it to short a stock or something. How do we go and combat that? And that's all about that brand or that company or that individual knowing about the issue.
Right. Well, on that sort of quite scary thought, we're going to go to the break, and when we come back, we're going to look deeper into these issues, mainly on the main threats to online safety, but also how Adam and his team are planning to tackle them. We'll see you in a minute. Welcome back. My guest today is the Chief Executive and Founder of Crisp, Adam Hildreth. Adam, you said recently that privacy has become a big deal. How big a deal is it?
Well, it's become a big deal for consumers because, of course, all of the, I guess you'd call it, scandals around data breaches and people using information and not really informing consumers as to, and users, how their information's being used.
But a big deal for business.
But it's a big deal for business because privacy, once everything goes private, you have no idea what people are saying about you. So when we talk about the issues around anyone can go and post whatever thoughts or feelings they have about you on social media, once that becomes private, and as a business or individual you can't find that, that's a real issue. It can spread to millions of people privately without you ever being able to stop it or even know about it or find out about it.
I mean, a lot of businesses, think these issues are for the rarefied heights of very, very big corporations or very, very famous people. I mean, how mainstream an issue is this?
So if we take a high street, a typical single store or a single restaurant high street type chain type problem, then it's absolutely hitting them every day with fake reviews. Let's face it, most consumers will now use one of the apps that are out there to go and look at the reviews of a restaurant or a clothing brand or any type of product. And actually the single biggest thing and threat to a company is that fake reviews are put out, either because you're posting fake reviews yourself for positive reasons, or your competitors putting negative reviews out there.
So if we were to think about categories of online harm, we've talked about some of the darker ones in terms of the dreadful sort of child abuse, the grooming, but give us a sense of what an online harm is and isn't. So is a review, is a TripAdvisor review that's done as a fake piece of news, is that the sort of thing you view as an online harm? I mean, where does it sort of end?
Well, I'd probably broadly say anything that harms us respecting the capability of it online as it is, or social media. So a fake review, for instance, if I know that this is a fake review, every fake review I see or think I'm seeing, I'm going to stop believing in that service, which means I'm going to stop relying on that. Every piece of fake news I see, I'm not going to know what to believe or what not to believe. So it's harming online in general. So you can harm individuals, but you can harm the whole fact that we use online as a service. What do you believe and what don't you?
Because it's interesting, isn't it, that fake news started off as, it was a humorous take on misinformation, but now for you this is big business.
It's huge business, and it really came to light from a political perspective, and the fact that you can shape democracy through a few targeted ads that have got a very specific narrative around what you want to say to select individuals.
So is this the Cambridge Analytica Facebook moment? Is that when this all came to play?
I think that's probably the biggest publicity it's had, where you've now got documentaries on Netflix running on it, which is just unbelievable. When you start to watch that and read it and realise how sophisticated it is. But this has been happening for so long, and there is no controls over it. Literally anyone can spin up a website or a social app, today, tomorrow, and they can distribute it to millions of people. I
mean, John Markman in Forbes said recently that it's a new world and the bad guys are winning. I mean, do you get a sense that actually, for those that are optimistic about technology, that optimism might be misplaced?
The bad guys aren't winning. So the problem we've got is we don't get to promote our successes. we're only ever seeing essentially the failures in terms of what has missed. You know, but for every one thing that what we call a bad actor, but the bad guys get through, we've taken millions of their attacks down, and we've stopped them doing it.
And who are they? I mean, in terms of an understanding, I mean, who has the sophistication to do this? I mean, and how do they win?
Well, it ranges from individuals. So someone that is sat behind a computer that's had a bad day at work and wants to go and abuse a politician or abuse a celebrity or abuse someone they know, you know, so just individuals that have had a bad day or that are having a bad time, all the way through to organised states and organised crime that are doing it to make money or to change the democracy within, you know, foreign states that they don't get on with.
I mean, and all of this, I guess, has come under a new kind of like business segment, cybersecurity. I mean, it's big business, right? In terms of, I mean, when you look at the future, are we going to see those kind of billion-dollar brands in this area, this kind of more defensive type work around tech?
Yeah, and I'd go one stage further, actually. I think there is a new sector being defined right now, which isn't even cybersecurity. Because typically when, you know, businesses go and say, well, are we secure from a cyber perspective? They go to their IT teams or their development teams and ask that question. This is very different. This is almost weaponizing communication. And because the mechanism we all use now for communication used to be printed media is your mainstream one. A lot of the time now, printed has gone online and we're utilising social and WhatsApp to communicate whatever it may be. That's now being weaponised against us.
So is there a market space for that? I mean, in terms of if you were to describe that market, if it's not cybersecurity, what is it?
Working on it is the word.
Working on it, right.
There's a few players now. I mean, we're absolutely leading the space. The brands and platforms that buy us and know where we sit, know exactly how to describe us. Where we sit within the global ecosystem is an interesting one. I think in the next 12 months, it's really going to come to fruition.
But I think it's interesting that you strike a very optimistic tone about the difference that a business like yours can make, and about this as an addressable problem, whereas others sort of see this as this sort of unstoppable wave of difficulty. I mean, what gives you what fires you up to believe this is a problem you can crack?
Because we have solved it. You know, we started off protecting children, and we still do protect children and kids and teens and families from online grooming. And back in 2008, Cambridge University said we were 98.6% effective at doing that. I mean, 98.6%, and that was 2008. So we know that we are capable of stopping it. The problem is it's a massive problem to solve, and it's not easy. And once you've solved it, you don't go to bed and go, great, that's done, what's my next challenge? Because it evolves and it evolves. It's very similar to the antivirus industry. The antivirus industry started off very similar.
And is this all a tech play in terms of the sort of things you're developing in terms of programming? Or to what degree have you got like your own team of detectives or people skills that are hunting this out?
So absolutely not just a tech play. If you're going to expect AI to pop its head up and say, I've solved the problem for you, let's all move on, never. It's not going to happen. We combine human intelligence with artificial intelligence, and we absolutely have that whole, we've replicated the public security sector in terms of having undercover people that infiltrate groups, understand their tactics and motives and where they're talking and how they talk. Then we train AI to go and do the heavy lifting. You know, people can't look at billions of signals and pieces of data in minutes, but AI can. But AI doesn't understand context, and human does.
So when you bring this back to the business of Crisp, when you're growing this company, growing this team, I mean, how and where do you hire?
So we go for the very best engineers to write AI, which is essentially machine learning, so we can teach machines to do this at scale. But a lot of the time we're taking undercover officers, people that work in intelligence, people that worked in the army in that area, people that have done this within, because this has been a real world issue for governments for tens of years.
Yeah.
And they've done it very effectively, so that's where we go and get those skill sets.
So you can take that kind of military intelligence, that kind of capability. And I mean, of course, you've built a business here in London, your headquarters in Leeds, you've gone to the States. I mean, this is becoming very fast an international business. In terms of what you're learning about yourself and the markets you're serving, give us a sense of that scaling, I guess, lesson.
Well, I guess it's been an interesting one, certainly when I look at other businesses that ask us what the lessons they could learn. So yes, we got offices in Leeds, we've got offices in London, but we generally have sold to some of the biggest businesses and blue chip players in the world. So we were on a plane to America,
right.
Or wherever they may be headquartered. And the biggest lesson we learned was find your target market and literally go knock on the door and sell to them. But that means get a flight. That doesn't mean sell to your next door neighbour that just because they happen to be next door.
So be mobile.
Absolutely.
But also, I guess, be ambitious in terms of cracking the problem. What keeps the ambition alive?
I think because the scale of the problem evolves every day and it becomes bigger and bigger, so the challenge becomes bigger. Everyone loves a challenge, or certainly entrepreneurs and people in business love a challenge. And this is certainly a big challenge. And when you've got some of the biggest social platforms in the world that have got the best engineers, thousands of people, and they have to come to an R&D headquartered business in Leeds, with offices in London, etc., and they have to come to us to solve that. That's great because, but we've been doing it for so long. It's a specialist skill set.
But I suppose, kind of final question on this is that, I mean, when do you know that for you mission is accomplished? I mean, this could be your life's work. I mean, by the time you were in your 20s, you had two great businesses under your belt. I mean, is this going to be your life's work? I mean, is this your future now in terms of being on that front line of addressing online harm?
I think that we're doubling our headcount year on year. We're over 200 people now. By the end of next year, we'll be over 400 people. So there's a point where I go, well, that's out of my hands because it needs someone that runs a business as more of a corporate. I will always be involved in this area, I think, even if it's just to comment or advise, because when you've been in it from day one, you've got that knowledge that it's really hard or easy to pass on, but hard to acquire on your own. So I'd like to do that.
Well, it sounds like lots more work to do before then. Adam Hildreth, thank you very much. And that's all we have time for this week. And thanks to my guest, Adam Hildreth, an online activist in a world of dangers. His is a story of fast founding and even quicker growth as he aims to keep up with ever-evolving threats through the power of new technologies. And if you're looking for more creative solutions to the world's toughest challenges, I'll be back with more from the best in business on the next Capital Conversation. I'll see you then.